Howdy gamers, what's going on here? Here for episode 3 of Pixels and Pumps now. Talked about fitness last time, I was training with a buddy. Now, this week, back to gaming. Now, initially I thought about ditching the idea of gaming, or at least not the whole alternating weeks, because I didn't think I'd have anything to talk about. But, that is until I beat this game. And now I have plenty to talk about. Now the game I'm talking about is Metro Exodus, which if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you've never heard of it, you've been living under a rock, no, but really, Metro games, I'd always kind of heard of them. I never played them. I don't know why it took me so long to play them, because it definitely seems up my alley. First person shooter, actions, got some shit going on. But essentially, Metro Exodus is the third, and if I understand correctly, is the third installment in the Metro series. It's based off a set of books by the same name, Metro. And essentially, right, in Exodus, it's the year 2035. This post, basically World War III pops off, and everyone decides to fucking nuke each other. And so, you know, most people die, because everyone's nuking each other. But the people that have survived, what they did is they took up shelter underground in the Metro, right? Hence the name Metro. And they've been living there ever since. I forget what year. It said the 2013, I think, maybe? Somewhere early 2010s, I think, is when the war popped off. And so for 20 years, yeah, I think that's what it was, 2013, because 2033, 34, and then 35 is when Exodus takes place. And so, in the year 2035, post-nuclear apocalypse, living in the Metro, you play as a young Artyom. I don't know if he's really that young, but you play as Artyom, is the guy. You're a Russian fella. All the games are Russian-based protagonists and fellas. And after living in the Metro for so long, Artyom decides, time to get out, right? Time to leave the Metro. They've lived there, they're not living, right? They're just waiting to die, essentially, is how he sees it, which I can totally understand. So he decides it's time to leave. Convinces his group of buddies, they're called Spartans, pretty badass. The Order of Spartans, actually, pretty badass. So he ended up talking to them, convincing them, and they decide that they're going to leave the Metro and go explore. They're like, there has to be other survivors. There's no way it's just us. We got to go find some people. So you end up getting on a train. How you get there, I'll let you find out. So you get yourself a train, you and your crew, hop on the train, and you start chugging across Russia. And it's really cool because it takes place, the whole game takes place across a whole year. So you experience every season. You start off in the winter, I think it's like early January. Go from the winter to spring to summer to fall, and then winter again for the last chapter. And it's just wonderful, honestly, like doing it like that instead of just being in the span of like a couple weeks or, you know, a couple days, really kind of lets you grow this attachment to the crew, lets people grow in certain ways, relationships build, that you'll see later on when you play the game. Now, the reason that I think y'all should play the game, the reason I love it so much, I'm trying not to spoil anything. I'm just going to give a very broad synopsis. But step 1, super immersive, right? Which I'm sure you hear all the time in the video game world. Oh, it's so immersive. Oh, you really feel like you're in the game, you know, that sort of thing. You really feel like Spider-Man. You really feel like Batman. If you know that reference, shout out. But step 1 of it being so immersive is the graphics. Fucking gorgeous, right? Even the base game is beautiful, which is what I played, because when I first got the game, I couldn't play the enhanced edition because I didn't have a good enough graphics card. But even then, like, it still looked gorgeous. On the enhanced edition, I can only ray tracing, all the graphics get even fucking revamped, 4K texture pack, looks even better. Even without that, just playing on the normal version, it's fucking beautiful. Which I know a lot of people say that graphics don't make a good game, and I agree, right? You can have an 8-bit game, like there's a reason people to this day still play Super Mario, because it's a good game, right? Super Mario Bros, like stuff like that, they're good games, they're great games, timeless. So you don't need good graphics to have a good game, but I think it helps add to it. If you have an amazing game, and on top of that, it's got beautiful graphics on top of it, I think it's just icing on the cake. So that is why I made the list for me. And I think it's beautiful. Again, the enhanced edition just takes it to the next fucking level. Plus, there are a couple bugs in the game, which is a little annoying. I had to Google how to get around them, where the game would just crash at certain points, which have been known bugs since the release that never got fixed, unless you had the enhanced edition. So if your PC can handle it, go ahead and run the enhanced edition, because if you run into those bugs, it's a headache. It took me so many tries of crashing, restarting the PC, loading it back up, crashing, messing with settings, doing all that to finally get through those like 2 or 3 sticking points in the game. And that's pretty annoying. So they never got fixed in the base game, which, kind of sucks. So 4A games, maybe fix bugs that y'all know about. But they did get fixed in the enhanced edition. So they don't, those crashes don't happen in the enhanced edition. So if your PC can handle it, go ahead and play it. And if you can't handle the enhanced edition on your PC, still play it. You're going to have to go through a little bit of headache to get through those areas, but you can do it, and it's worth it. So, but just a heads up. Another way that is super immersive is with the crafting and inventory system. So instead of, like, let's say you're in the middle of a firefight and you're getting hammered, right? And you need some med packs because you ran out and you're about to die. Well, you better find some cover before you craft that med pack, because the way it works is you just take your backpack off and it's still live going on around you. Everything behind you, you're not in a menu. You pull out your backpack and you're crafting right there. So if you're getting shot at and you decide, I'm going to pull out my backpack so they can't hit me. No, they're going to hit you, bud. They're going to fucking hit you. Just make sure it's still recording. Sometimes this shit craps out on me. So, yeah, make sure you're recording. Or make sure you're in a good spot when you're crafting and checking through your inventory. It's also really cool because when you're modifying your weapon, it will show you holding out your weapon, watch you change out the parts. It's really cool. It adds a lot. Pulling out your map, same thing. It doesn't cut to a menu. You just literally hold up a physical map and flip it around, check what your objective is on a journal, and you're still in it. Live little marker on the map with a compass, a little lamp. It's a small detail, but it really adds. Anything that you can do that takes you out of the game less is going to make it more immersive. So it was very awesome that they did that. And then crafting, right? The way the crafting materials work is there's only 2 materials, right? There's metal and chemicals, which is super simple, which is nice, right? Instead of having this overly complex crafting system where you got to get iron and steel and this certain chemical and this chemical and bandages, and all this is just 2 things. So it makes it very simple, but that's good because it kind of helps add to the gameplay of being survival based, because it forces you to make choices as to what you're going to spend your resources on. So you can't go max out your grenades and max out your ammo and max out your med kits, max out your gas mask. You got to decide, what do I need right now? Do I need gas masks right now? Do I need med kits? So I'm not really fighting anybody, I'm just exploring. Maybe I don't craft those. Maybe instead I, get some gas masks because I'm going through a radiated area and stuff like that. So it's simple, but the restrictedness of it adds to the survival of it, because you're having to make choices based on what you need in that moment. That makes you think, conserve resources, all those sorts of things. Another thing that helps it be really immersive too is you actually, your choices impact the game, your moral choices. So there'll be times when you get in firefights and you kill everybody except the last guy, and the last guy will surrender. He'll give up. He says, hey, don't shoot me. Puts his weapon down, hand behind his head. He surrenders. You can kill him if you want. You just fucking shoot him right there in cold blood. a couple things that's really cool is, one, that'll make enemies stop surrendering because they know that you're just going to kill them anyway, so they'll fight to the death. But also affects your moral choices. So if you do that, it affects your karma, because the game has sort of a karma system. It's not, like Red Dead or anything where like this meter that's constantly shifting. There's a few, I guess it's kind of how you play the game, but there's a few key choices that you have to make. Especially if you go around killing everybody, even in the game will let you know. It's just like, hey, can you spare these people? I know you're going through, but like try and sneak through instead of killing everybody. And if you kill everybody, well, then you get bad choices. And there's three, I think, key moments that you need to make sure your karma is good and you make the right choice. To determine whether or not you get the good ending or the bad ending. There are multiple endings based on your moral compass in the game, which is another thing that makes it immersive, because it shows that your actions have consequences. So if you go around killing these people, they're not going to like you. Bad things are going to happen to you and your squad. It's also really cool, you can hear people chatting about it. So if you're sparing all these dudes that survive, the guys that surrender, you spare them, you go around, do your thing. The next time you sneak up to a little bandit camp, you can hear them talk about that. You can hear them say, oh man, he did take out a lot of our guys, he's ferocious, but at the same time, it's cool that he's not killing all of us. Like, he's surrendering, or when people surrender, he accepts it. Like, he's got some mercy. And like, you can just hear a little chatter about it, which is really cool. So, that helps as well. And then the last thing I got down, also being super immersive, is I know the typical meme about NPCs, right, is that they're NPCs, fucking brain dead, one voice line, especially with Skyrim NPCs, brother. But the NPCs in Metro are a lot different. Like, it really, because it gives you the moment in between each major mission when you're out in the world doing your main missions. You'll come back and have a chapter on the train between each season where you talk to the crew, go around, walk around. You can talk to your wife, crew, have a drink, play an instrument, just kind of walk around the train and have conversations with people. And it's like, it actually feels real. Like, it feels alive. Like, it's not just guys taking up space in pixel land. They're actually, it's a world, it's alive, which adds, like, it's what is going to help add to that immersion. So the guys will reference things that happened earlier in the game, or they'll say, choices you made on the previous mission, they'll talk about, and they'll be like, hey, thanks for saving those guys that were captured. We really appreciate that, man. Or he's like, hey, you're kind of a cold-blooded dick. Maybe you shouldn't do that, things like that. So like, the NPC crew is not your typical NPC. They're actually alive. It's very simple, it makes the world feel alive. You gotta hydrate or dihydrate, brothers. Another thing, is just the gameplay itself is good. It's fun. You get really cool, realistic guns. Like, you're not gonna have these military-grade weapons, high-tech, everything's perfect. No, you get scrap guns. Like, the revolvers are junky. The shotguns are pieced together with even the descriptions of the guns will tell you, like, the certain attachments you can change out. It's just like, you just get any steel pipe and it makes a shotgun barrel. And then you can see that when you look at it. You're like, yeah, that looks like just a piece of scrap metal. You see springs hanging out. Another thing, too, is your weapons will get dirty. The more you use them, if you're spending a lot of time in the water, the mud, the elements, your weapon will get dirty. And you have to clean them. It's not, like, obnoxious where it's like, oh, I need to stop every 10 minutes to clean my gun, or every 10 shots I take, I gotta clean it. But it's just like heavy use. Like if you're just walking through normal on the street, not shooting anything, not going in dirty places, it'll last a long time. But if you're in those elements, you'll have to clean the gun. And if you don't, you start running into jams. It doesn't work right. I remember this one time I was in this fight with one of these mutants, and I was trying to shoot him, and I had the drum magazine on my shotgun, and it was really dirty, and I was trying to just light him up, and I couldn't, because every time I would shoot, the gun would jam, so I'd be like, and I have to fuck out, unjam it, and that's gonna add to the stress of a firefight, right? You're not just gonna have this perfectly graded, lubed weapon all the time. That's a really cool factor that helps it, again, be more immersive, but makes the gameplay super fun. Like I talked about the crafting as well. It's restrictive in a way, but that helps make it good because you have to make choices about what you want. And the genre that'll go down, right? First-person shooter. Is your guy. He's first-person perspective, but it mixes a whole lot of things, right? It mixes stealth. You even have things like a light meter on your wrist to show you. That's another thing too that helps make it immersive. Is like, you want to know what time it is in the game? Your guy's wearing a watch. You want to know if you're in the darkness and can be seen by enemies? You have a little light meter. You got a radiation meter on your wrist that'll tell you if you're going into a radiated area. All right, you can get a metal detector, compass, all these different things. You'll wear them on the wrist, and just stuff like that to keep you in the game. So you're not pulling out a menu to check all these things. But it mixes stealth aspect. It mixes, action. Obviously, you're going to get into firefights. There's plenty of firefights and action, fighting humans alongside mutants. Plenty of action. Don't think it's a stealth game. All right, but also horror elements, because, it's a post-apocalyptic world with mutants and people that are scared and trying to fight for their life. So there's going to be a lot of horror elements, right? A lot of creepiness, a lot of eeriness, even when I think there's a couple jump scares in there, but it's not a lot of cheap horror, like jump scares and stuff like that. It's a lot of just like the horror that I like, where it's just like suspenseful. Like you're going through these environments and it's just creepy. Like towards the end of the game, you're going through this one city and there's these massive skyscrapers, buildings, metros, like all this stuff, and it's all just dead. It's just quiet. Even the characters talk about that, like it's too quiet. They're like, this city just feels dead. And the name of the mission was the Dead City, so it makes sense. But you just get that feeling, and then you start thinking about it. You're like, holy crap! Like you can see corpses that got destroyed in the blast, cars, like all the traffic of people trying to evacuate, and you're just like, wow, like this is creepy. This is uncomfortable. Like this is the realities of war. And also it kind of mind fucks with a little psychological horror too. Towards the end, whenever you're really feeling the effects of radiation. Again, I'm not trying to spoil too much, but you're going through this area where you're really starting to feel the effects of the radiation, and you start hearing voices and seeing things, and you're like kind of start thinking what's real, what's fake. It kind of fucks with you a little bit, so it's really good. And like I said earlier too, it takes place over a whole year, which I think helps add to that character development, because you're able to play it from winter to spring to summer to fall to winter again. So you really get to see the relationships between the characters build, and it doesn't like kind of rush all these big moments. It's like natural. Like these people grow a connection together. When you find a new guy and bring him on, you're able to build that relationship slowly over the year. And you watch the seasons change. And again, on those missions where you're just on the train walking around, you get to look out and see the seasons, right? When you're driving through the desert in the middle of summer, it's just barren wasteland. When you're going through the spring, it's all wet, there's rainy, and lots of rivers. When you're going through in the fall, you get the beautiful orange, yellows, greens, reds, trees out there. So you get to see all those things, and it helps just build, and it puts you into the world. Like it feels like you're there. It's not like I don't know, I think immersion can be a little cheap, where people are like, oh, you don't feel like you're playing a game, you're alive in it. Well, it's like, I know I'm playing a game, but like I feel like I care about it. Like I'm not just like, shoot, Call of Duty, which don't get me wrong, I like Call of Duty, especially the old school campaigns. That shit's fun. Walk around, shoot a bunch of bad guys. Shit's cool. But like, I don't give a shit at the end of the day, really, about these people, even the bad guys. Whereas Metro, you kind of feel for the bad guys. Like everyone you interact with, bad guys, good guys, everyone in between, you feel for them, you care about them, which I think is really cool. It's not an easy thing to pull off, but 4A did it, and I think it's a great game. And right now on Steam, actually, all the Metro games are like 80 to 90% off. So if you've never played them before, now would be a good time to hop in. If you got a PC, get them super cheap on Steam right now. And I've heard people talk about and say that they're actually the Metro Exodus is like, I don't want to say the worst because that makes it sound like a bad game. Like, it's not a bad game in the slightest. It's actually an amazing game. But I've heard people say that it's like the least good, I guess. Like, I mean, worst is technically correct, but basically they said, like, when it comes to the Metro games, they would not rate Exodus as number one, which can sound off-putting to some people. I haven't played the other ones, but to me, that's actually kind of exciting, because as much as I loved Exodus, if these other ones are that much better, that just makes me excited to play the other ones. Now, if you play them in order, right, Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, and then Exodus, well, then maybe it'll feel like a downgrade, but maybe that's a good way to play it, is the way I did it. You play the last one, and then you hop back and play number 1 and 2. Then it only goes up from there. I don't know. But again, it's a great game, Metro Exodus. It's what they call in the business a masterpiece. I don't know, I loved it. I would highly recommend. It also has 2 really cool DLCs. One gives you a perspective from the last mission, kind of lets you know what the hell happened, adds to the story. It's like 2 hours, not very long, 2 to 3 hours depending on how you play. And then the other one I just started, not finished with yet, takes a perspective from one of your crewmates after the main game. He's going off. He's an American, so he's trying to find his way back home. Which again, it just adds more to the story. So I highly recommend you check it out. If you don't want to, that's fine. But again, think you'd be missing out. So hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you want to hear about next. Have a good day.